years, worked with the Roxbury Defenders Unit of the Committee for Public Counsel Services. He is also a professional musician, vocalist, composer, and playwright. And he is an adult choral director of Black Nativity, the NCAA's annual Christmas production. Our second panelist, Jamie McDonald. Jamie is a retired health law attorney in Boston who spent most of his career in government services as a litigator of physician discipline areas. He is often in hot water for saying what he thinks, and even though his mother warned him his mouth would get him in trouble. Third panelist, Tommy Howard. Tommy was born and raised in Roxbury, where he developed his passion for sports, education, and entertainment. He went on to join an iconic website company called Underground Hip Hop. He has shared the stage with Lil Wayne, Wu-Tang Gang, 50 Cent, and the G Unit. Currently, he's preparing to release a new body of work and beginning touring in the summer. And finally, John Santiago. John is a South End resident and emergency medical physician at Boston Medical Center. He is a captain in the Army Reserve and a former Peace Corps volunteer. He currently is a candidate for Suffolk District State Representative in Boston. And here are our hosts, Tracey Lithcutt, and co-host James Levesque.
Jay Jizzy, here we go. We're going to have an open and honest discussion today about men. Jay, what do you think about that?
Man, I'm ready to go, Trey. You already know.
We have to apologize. I have to apologize to our guests for a couple of things. Two of our panelists are running late today. One did a no-show on us, and we will take care of him later. And I want to just give a little brief apology for our co-host there, our co-producer. She had the little mumbles there, Jay. She said the Wu-Tang Gang. I thought it was the Wu-Tang Clan. I'm not sure what she was talking about, but I think the general folks out there understand who she might be talking about. So with our panelists today, I have some good friends here, retired Judge Milton Wright, my man Jamie McDonald. And our panelists, the other two, should hopefully be there soon, and we'll determine whether or not we'll let them go on the air with us, Jay.
Yes, absolutely. We might just be like, you know what? We don't really need you at this moment now. Go home.
There you go on home. Go on home. You know what I'm saying to our panelists, and we'll join in with you as well. When I bring up a specific topic, the only thing you cannot do is ask me what I mean. So when you hear me bring a phrase up or a word, you just talk about what you think that means to you. Does that sound about right, Jay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get started here. Our panelists, and we'll start with you, Jamie. What is your opinion of this generation's women?
I suppose I think that they're more or less like previous generations of women. There's been some change. And, the careers have opened to women that weren't previously, but, there is such a thing, I believe, as a kind of feminine nature that runs constant, and that's closely related to wanting to nurture children and create a domestic environment that's, a family.
Sure. Milton, what do you think? What do you think of this generation's women?
I believe there's a difference. We hear the term women have found their voice. I think women have always had a voice, and it's been expressed at various times through history that have really impacted historic events. But today when we say that, we're talking about women developing the skills and the strength to stand up to men in certain areas like sexual assault and physical assault.
Okay.
Report those things and not be afraid, even when the person might be someone who controls their livelihood.
Okay.
As more women are working now.
And let me say this too with this, what we do in this discussion. I'm just going to be jumping all over the place. When I think about today's women, I really think about my daughters, and I think about what I'd like them to be, and I try to discuss certain things, the mistakes and the good things, the successes and struggles that I've been through, and how that relates to them. And I give them the real deal picture of what's going to be out there. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to make them understand what they have to do to move forward. And it may sound corny that you can be whatever you want to be, but it is true. And I'm pushing them in that direction. So the next thing I'm going to bring up was one of our previous topics, and make sure not to use the word. All right? What about the N-word? Jamie.
Look who just walked in.
Oh, John Santiago
Mr.
walked in
Santiago.
late. But he's here.
He's here. We need you here. But
We here. We mic'd up. Okay, we mic'd up.
What about the N-word?
As it relates to women, I assume is.
Remember, there's no rules here. There's no rules. What about the N-word? We're on a new topic. Whatever I say, you just tell me what you think.
I wish it didn't exist, and I wish collective amnesia set in and people forgot about it.
Sure.
collective amnesia. I like that.
I like that, yeah.
But okay, one more thing to say. There are derogatories for words for women that are prevalent in lyrics today that I think is equally disturbing as the indiscriminate use of the N-word in lyrics and also in conventional speech.
Okay.
It bothers me when I hear men refer to women by, I'll call it the B word.
Okay. Milton, what about you? The N-word.
The N-word is a very disparaging word, and I don't use it. If someone uses it around me, the first thing I feel is a little bit of anger, and I correct them. I don't care who they are. They use the word in front of me, and I think that's what should be done. I know behind some closed doors, in some high chambers, that word is used indiscriminately.
Did you hear that word, high chambers? That came from retired Judge Milton Wright. We did talk about how that word is used everywhere. Go ahead, Judge Wright.
So while I certainly, well, the whole thing of disparaging words against women, that certainly is something that should not happen. But the N-word, we connect not just with disparaging language, but we connect it with hangings, with mutilations, with all that goes to the history of that word. And so some people may not understand and may not internalize what that means. But to me, it means my great granduncle whose arm was cut off.
Wow.
When he tried to escape, and he was caught. They cut off his arm, and I'm certain that was one of the words they used.
I'm sure they did
when they captured him.
I'm sure they did.
And
John Santiago, I'm glad to have you here. This young man is running for state representative against an old timer that's been there for quite some time. It's good to see you here. And I must say that N-word I use quite a bit. In many different ways, and to say, John, I'm supporting your candidacy. You are you thought I was going to say it, didn't you? N-word, John, what do you think about that word?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. My apologies for showing up late here. Had an event that just finished here, but I'm very thankful to get here. I couldn't agree more with what you gentlemen have said here. The N-word is disparaging, it's disgraceful, it's disrespectful. It's important that we make sure that we understand the context, as the gentleman just said, sitting right in front of me here. As someone from Puerto Rico who comes from a mixed race as well, my grandma is black as well. It's a word that I don't use. It's a word I don't think should be used on the streets or in music videos or in public office, wherever. I think it's disrespectful, as said, and you'll see me correct someone if they're around me using that word.
Sure. Now, I want to just ask for, I want to say out to our fans today, too, and our listeners and our viewers. Some of the terms and some of the things that men might say today may sound very idiotic at times, and I kind of put myself in that category because I use those types of things in terms in conversations with men. So just listen for anything that could happen on today's show. How about my panelists, super creative or super smart? Come on, somebody say something. Super creative or super smart? Jump in.
Well, I think super creative is super smart.
Okay.
Most of the creative people that I know I would count as super intelligent also. Music, the arts, there have been a number of studies that have been done that show that that your participation in the arts and in music helps you develop you intellectually.
Okay.
And I believe that there's intellectual content in music, and that in the schools they treat it the wrong way. It should not be treated as an extracurricular activity.
Sure.
I was in choruses and singing all of my life, and I believe that's why I was able to accomplish the things that I accomplished.
So you said that because I know you as a playwright. You are super creative and super smart. And as Judge Wright mentioned around the entertainment world, if anybody's ever been to a rap concert, you notice the shows are always late.
Always.
Always late.
Always
Jay.
late.
And does that mean that the performers are usually late?
The performers is always late. They like to make their grand entrance just like Tommy
It's
Boy.
hip-hop time.
Tommy Howard just walked in.
It's
Howard
hip-hop time.
he was supposed to be here at 2:15. Oh my goodness! Can you believe it?
But we glad to have you,
Glad
T.
to-
Thank you for
Glad
having
glad
me.
you're here.
Sorry, I'm on hip hop time, everybody.
Let's just move this a little further. Let's move this on. John Santiago, biggest disappointment in your life?
Biggest disappointment. You know what? I don't look at life as full of disappointments and regrets. I look at life as about learning lessons. You know, I've made plenty of mistakes, professionally, personally, and I grow from them. So I look forward to taking big risks and seeing what happens here. What I'm doing right now is a big risk here. I'm taking on an almost 40-year incumbent here, but I believe in what I do. I believe in the community, and I believe in our mission here. And come what may, this is going to be a learning experience for everyone, for me, for Representative Rushing, and for the community here. So, I've been through a lot of challenges. Before I was running for office here, I was abroad for 5 years working in the Peace Corps. I spent some time working in, the jungles of Africa here. A lot of challenging things, a lot of difficult things, but they taught me about perseverance, and they taught me about courage, and it's about applying those skills into, future endeavors here. So
Thank you.
I look at challenges as, as part and parcel of life.
That's right.
Tommy Howard, biggest disappointment in life?
Biggest disappointment in life? Oh man, had a few of those, but I've overcome all of them. I have to say that all of them is when I ran into some trouble with the law. I have to say that.
Okay. You
Because-
want to elaborate a little?
Main reason being because I come from a background of being, a scholarly individual with scholarships, athleticism, well known in the entertainment community locally, and I got it. Well, one of my closest people in the world to me passed away, and that's for anybody. It's tough to challenge. It's a tough challenge to overcome when you lose the closest person to you in the world. And then, you're faced, especially when you're a young adult. I was about 22, about 10 years ago. And, you're thrust into this world where you're about to graduate from college. That's a lot of pressure. I had my own apartment. I had my own vehicles, but then when that person passed away, I kind of lost my world, and I kind of felt like the world owed me something. And I backlashed my, anger on the world, and then, it cost me to, confront, the law or whatnot. And I took it as a learning lesson, and it helped me grow. It was actually, for the point I was in my life mentally, I was needed a break from life.
Sure.
And I was either going to create that myself in a way that I truly didn't want, and it gave me a chance to kind of, overcome, really sit down, think, understand what's going on with me,
Well,
what's going around my world.
It's good to see you here because hopefully that disappointment wasn't a big one because you are still here with us now.
Oh yeah, I still graduated from college.
Jamie, biggest disappointment, Jamie?
Oh, I don't know. I've been separated for about 5 years, and I suppose look, disappointments and failures are growth experiences too. I've got a theory that only when you've failed someone near and dear to you, and thereby failed yourself, do you fully acquire a kind of compassion and empathy for other people. I think it's characteristic of youth that they're unforgiving. They haven't lived long enough to fail a spouse or a child or a parent, and consequently they're kind of rigid in their hearts are more rigid. You soften as you age after you have, I had a dad who had Alzheimer. You can constantly second guess yourself about your behavior as to those you love.
Sure. Excellent points. Excellent points. And for I hope there's women out there listening today, because this will be a good opportunity to hear how men think and what they're thinking from an emotional standpoint as well. Because I'm about to ask them, after we hear from Jay around the country, about something that really gets men excited, and we'll see how goofy we can be about that, Jay.
Right. So right now, there's a couple of questions. We have this young lady. Her name is Crystal. She's calling from New York. She sent an email from New York City, and she said, "Do you think men will ever grow up?" And this actually towards
Would you be referring that to me?
No, I wasn't saying. I was looking to you, but it's actually going through everybody. Do you think men will ever grow up? Will ever grow up? And it's open discussion for anybody on the panel.
Sure. Men grow up. I think.
What age might that be? Is it after 56?
Men may grow up a little. Men may grow up a little slower than women. I think that is true. That is true, and as a generalization.
Sure.
Okay, but I was a justice in Roxbury. I believe that justice means if you make a mistake, you're punished once.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I agree.
So you don't go through life because you made a mistake being punished, and we punish ourselves. Okay?
Right.
So in the same way, we grow up when we learn to stop blaming ourselves and we move on. When we learn that, life is about learning what God put us here for, and that's to love. And so when you really understand what it really means to love, and that's a hard term for most people to define and to internalize.
True.
But to really love means to open yourself up to being available to everyone and anyone.
Sure.
To not blame yourself, to not blame others.
Okay.
To understand the frailties of others.
Sure. Jay,
And
what else
you
we
have
got?
to deal with it.
Okay.
Right, you bring some interesting point. So we have our next caller was from California. This is Dennis, and this is another question to anybody on the panel. Is it okay for men to cry? Is it okay for men to cry?
John, do you cry?
Not in front of their child.
Yeah,
Not in front of their children.
You know,
I
all the time.
I don't think men should cry in front of their children, man, because the children look up to them.
Right.
And you're the one who's supposed to set that strength and give them that strength, especially in times when it's challenging. If you show that granted, as an adult and a mature level, and a mature woman can accept a man's crying and understand what that means. But I don't think children truly understand what that means, especially when they look at their parents as heroes. You can never show yourself weak to your child.
But you're
I don't
suggesting
think
that crying is weak.
I don't think crying is
So
weak.
I don't think crying
and
is weak
I think
either.
you
I think
need
it is.
to show your children that it's okay to cry.
I think
it's
crying
okay
is
to
weak.
feel.
Yeah.
It's okay to cry. Just like it's okay to laugh, it's okay to cry.
Right.
It is
And
okay
that's
to
not
cry.
a
To
weakness.
yourself. To
No.
yourself, absolutely.
No,
There's nothing wrong with releasing. You have to release.
No, to any.
You have to
can
release.
cry in front of your children. Let your children know that it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel. That's what they and that's strong. And tell them
when
that's
they get to a
strength.
mature level of understanding what it means for you to be crying in a circumstance
I'd
that
like
creates
to
that.
direct a
But a lot
question
of
to
children
you
won't
on
understand
this.
that.
Hold on 1 second. I
They
just
just
want to
see
go
you
just
crying.
one quick thing. Machismo. That sounded like a lot of machismo. Give me something on that, John. What do you think?
Machismo
about
from who? From
the
don't
light-
cry? No, I agree with the Reverend here. We should be able to cry. Crying is good, I think. It's not a source of weakness here.
I think so.
We are
Depending on the
emotional
situation.
beings. We are emotional men here. I
Absolutely.
cry because I'm happy, because I'm sad.
I think the judge here can tell us that a lot of the. See if you agree with this. I think a lot of the mass shootings we're seeing are people who can't pick up a box of Kleenex, and so they pick up a gun instead. Because I know what part of my training
I
as a
disagree.
man.
Well,
Part of my training as a man was to learn how to take feelings of despair and channel it into anger, because anger is a comfortable, manly emotion, whereas sorrow and depression is considered effeminate.
the discussion.
And look where that's got us so far. I mean, I'm a doctor at City Hospital at Boston Medical Center. I cry with my patients.
Yeah.
You know,
I like
and
that.
they thank me for that experience, and it opens a door. It allows them to express what they're feeling, and we have a back and forth here, and
Listen,
it's a very powerful emotion.
I love that. And fellas, I'm going to cry right now if we don't get to our sponsors, because our sponsors are what put this show together. Sure, what do we have there?
Okay, for our local sponsors, we have Urbanica, Build and Design, Eddie Jenkins Law, Callaway Graphics, Sweet Embers Bakery, J. Rockwell Sound Studio, Shun's Kitchen down in the South End, Janie's Construction, Leo Papil, who is an entrepreneur and a business owner, George Kramer, entrepreneur and business owner, and we had some anonymous donors. Our national sponsors are Better Belly Bakery in Chicago, The Shop in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and Apon Concept Productions in Miami, Florida.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. All the men are getting into it now. No, John, we're not going back to crying.
I just want to give a shout out to Shun's Kitchen here. I
was just about to say that myself.
I had dinner there last night. I know that's Tracy's favorite spot, but Bing Bum Bop is the best in the city.
Oh, I love that. That egg turns out good with that beef and bar. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. Because this is when I really become an idiot. It's when Tom Brady's on the field. Men in sports.
Oh, man.
I tell you, I wouldn't be with my baby Gail if she didn't let me have Sundays. Sundays is not just an important day for church, but Tom Brady is my religious inspiration. Men in sports, let's go, Tommy.
Oh, men in sports. What about it? You gotta be more specific. What men in sports?
No rules here, Tommy. Men in sports.
You gotta be manly in the sport. You know, granted, you know, we got people like LeBron James that cry, you know, when they're in situations, you know, and, you know, whine.
Crying's good.
No.
Yes, listen, Tommy.
Clearly
I cry every time we win a Super Bowl.
Clearly in sports,
I
though.
cry.
Clearly in sports, when a man gets hit and he starts whimpering, he's like, oh, man, especially in football. You know, we want to see the guy get hammered, especially when they're a rival, right? Come on. We're not crying for the guy when he gets sacked and he's getting put out, right?
Yes, I do. I cry. If my star player going into the playoffs,
If it was Tom Brady,
I'm crying.
If it was Tom Brady, I'd be crying.
Okay,
too.
John, what do you think, John?
About men in sports, I mean, you know, I'm a big sports fan. You know, I grew up watching the Celtics. Kevin McHale was my favorite player of all time. And I still watch sports, you know.
Yeah.
I still get excited. I'm excited about the NBA, the conference finals right now, supporting my Celtics. But,
right.
you know, about LeBron crying, you know, look how far that's gotten him so far, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Three rings.
Yeah.
A couple of MVPs.
When Kevin Garnett won the championship for Boston,
Everything
he cried
is
at the end.
possible.
That was different. All right, that was different.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's shift gears.
different.
One of the things that it really irritates me, and I'm just going to throw this term out when I see them on the streets, men, I'm just going to say men, with the gangster mentality over the age of 40.
Horrible.
Then men with the gangster mentality over the age of 40. Please, somebody chime in.
Okay. Men with the gangster mentality at any age perturbs me. I'm sorry. Over the age of 40 is ridiculous. Because, you know, it's...
How many of them did you see in your course?
Oh, I saw many. And I tell you something. I have talked these gangster types into tears. They'll tell you that.
Of course.
Didn't yell at them. Didn't, you know, they knew I wasn't a mean judge who would overly sentence them or anything. But I tell them who they are and why they were acting like that. And I get to that sensitive thing in them.
Could it be that at the age of 40, arthritis starts to kick in, and that walk they try to do, that cool walk they had years ago, it just doesn't look
I
like
still got my cool walk
okay.
at 74. Everybody will tell you about my cool walk now. Don't knock the cool walk. That's not
power.
gangster.
That's the power.
That's
walk
just,
right
yeah.
Jamie, what do you think? Gangster mentality with the men over 40.
It's unseemly, yeah. I think it's unseemly.
That's it?
Yeah.
John, how about you?
I guess
I think the
it's
judge makes a good point. I mean, so much of this is a facade, right? It's covering up something here, whether it's some insecurity, something they're not, comfortable sharing. And once you get deep down to what's going on, and then they'll talk to you and they'll cry.
Now, any true gangster knows they're not gangster on purpose.
Oh, no, is this an expert opinion we're getting now? Any true gangster?
Hey, listen, I'm not gonna answer that on the grounds that it might incriminate you. All right, but I will say this. Think about it. We're talking about what are you talking about here? Are we talking about black gangsters? Are we talking about Italian gangsters?
It doesn't matter.
What kind of gangsters are we talking about? Because a lot of the gangsters that are real gangsters, these guys are well over 40, and they do the most gangster stuff ever, and they do it quietly with suits on.
Yeah,
You understand?
that's true.
So, what are we talking about? We're talking about young black men who come up in an impoverished situation.
What about the gangsters on Wall Street?
The
let me-
gangster on Wall Street. What are we talking about here?
Let me just say one thing, because the rap schedule you didn't hear the rules at the beginning. Once I throw out a term, you cannot ask me what I believe. You have to just throw out.
Okay.
But we're going to
Okay.
shift right now. We're going
Okay.
to shift.
Okay.
Geniuses of our generation. Who are the geniuses?
Jay-Z.
I don't care whether they're sports figures, music figures, elected officials, or the old lady that you sit with on the stoop in your neighborhood.
Kanye.
I'm gonna say Jay-Z.
Kanye.
I'm gonna say Jay-Z.
But
Kanye.
we got to hear from my man Jay Jizzy.
People don't really understand the mindset behind like a genius. I think a genius, sometimes we don't really, all of us are geniuses at the end of the day. But it's all about
Are
like,
you right about that one?
I'm pretty sure.
okay.
Like all of us are geniuses at the end of the day, but it's more about like when you're operating your sense of genius, it's like you're in your world. And I say Kanye because he makes people, it's like he's waving his hand, making you look this way, while what he's really doing is like coming around.
Is that genius or is it manipulation?
Listen, I think it's
You know,
genius
I don't
because
know. He's a genius. Absolutely. I take nothing from Kanye from the fact that musically he's a genius.
Okay,
when
you
it comes to
don't-
when it comes to
I
don't
think-
get the comment of someone else's genius.
Wait a
Someone
minute.
else give me genius.
I think we're in an era of a lot of genius.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, while a lot of us are focused on the bad points, I tell you, when I was on the bench, I used to say this all the time. We're in a renaissance period.
right.
We're in a renaissance period. Young people are doing things that weren't even contemplated before. I mean, making major films, having their own record labels and everything. And I'll tell you, my sister was one of the start
What
of
was your
this.
sister's name?
Betty Wright.
Oh, here we go.
P. Betty Wright.
The first female to have a gold record on her own label.
Wow.
And she has mentored a lot of the younger people that are
John,
especially young women. that
John,
are in
geniuses
industry.
of our generation, John.
There's tons of them. I mean, every day I walk the street, I see a genius. The question is, are we giving them the opportunity to become a genius here? I mean, when I see someone, again, as I said, I work as an emergency room doctor here. I see so many geniuses walking in there, but they don't have the opportunity to exercise their ingenuity, their intelligence here. So there's tons of them. The question is, are we giving them the opportunity to become geniuses?
Of course, he is running for state representative. That's what that sounds like to me. And I do like this gentleman. Yes, I do. Let me switch over to you, Tommy, because this is something I see black folks use all the time. And at times, it infuriates me. It's not in a regular deck of cards, but they call it the race card.
Oh, the race
The
card.
race card.
Oh, man.
What you got for me, Tommy?
Oh man, well, give it from a person who has friends that are Caucasian and white, friends that are Indian. I mean, the race card goes a long way. I mean, to be honest with you, I see it all the time. I have friends, white friends, that like they'll do all kinds of party drugs, go run down the street naked in a subway and get picked up, and they get shimmy to the hospital and make sure that they're all right, and then they subscribe to some drugs. Now I see black men who use the bathroom, and now they're a level 2 sex offender.
Okay. Jamie, race card.
You know?
I think whites are part of white privilege is really being unaware of what it's like to be in a black man or woman's shoes. And what I've noticed is whites will sometimes regard the race card being played when it's not being played at all. If, for instance, if your father wasn't, if you're a black professional, but you're the first college graduate in your family, you enter the workforce without the benefit of the same acculturation as a white person from a college-educated family.
I know exactly
So
what that-
sometimes blacks aren't aware, as a matter of sociology and socioeconomics, what expectations are, and they've experienced so much authentic prejudice and perhaps rejection or unfair treatment in the rest of their life that they can be quick to interpret some incidents as being prejudicial in nature. For instance, just in something as simple as a powerlifting contest we had at a gym, there was a black man who didn't really know what the rules were for the bench press and the squat and etc. And he was the only black man competing. And I could see as he got disqualified on a series of the events, I could just
The race
anticipate.
card came up.
Well, he's thinking, are they unfairly treating me? And that's a legitimate question to ask yourself.
Let me tell you something. If I'm in a competition and I lose, if there's an opportunity for me to throw the card out so I can win, I'm going to do that.
Right.
Remember, we're going to go to you, then I have something for you, John. Race card.
The race card. Now, a lot of times they say race card, and it's really not a race card.
You're right.
I was the first college graduate in my family, and I come from a family where my mother and my father were divorced. My mother was a single parent raising 6 children. My sister Betty, when she had Clean Up One, which was her 11 million selling record, I was graduating from law school. So I never had the advantage of, her whatever assets she had.
That's a great signal.
You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, when I was coming up in the schools in Florida, I experienced a lot of racism because of who I was. I wasn't supposed to accomplish the things that I did in high school. I wasn't supposed to score higher than 99% of the white students in Florida. But I did. And, a lot of that was because I had people around me, teachers, one of my teachers took me to sing. I was singing arias, and I didn't know what I was singing. And in the 5th grade,
Okay.
as far as the white culture, I understood it better than most Europeans.
So
I went to
what do you feel about
concerts
the
and
race
operas
card?
and everything. So I mean, I hear a lot of times when people talk about the race card. I don't like that term. Why don't you be more specific
There
about what
you
you're
go.
talking about?
There you go.
Because that doesn't tell me anything.
Okay. Next question. We don't have a lot of time left before you guys have to give a closing statement. John, what do you see when you look in the mirror?
What do I see when I look in the mirror? I see someone who's striving to live a better life each day. I see someone who's getting up early in the morning, ready to go to work to help the people at the hospital, to help his patients out, to help the community. I see someone who wants more, who's competitive, and who's ready to take the day by the horns.
Tommy, what do you see when you look in the mirror?
Oh man, when I look in the mirror, I see a man. I see a man who came a very long way from a very troubled past. Smart man who's well educated, knows how to carry himself. A man who had nothing, lost everything, regained it all, graduated from college, became a homeowner at 31. Coming from a place where I had no credit and everything was taken from me. So I see a person who knows how to, achieve his own level of success.
Well, let me say this. I see a strong black man sitting beside me. What do you see when you look at yourself, Jamie?
What do I see? I see a man who is increasingly disturbed by the. I have a theory that one way we prepare for our deaths is by feeling nostalgia about all the things that have passed. It's a way of letting go. You start taking an inventory of all the changes that have occurred that you don't like. And it kind of makes it easier to let go when your time comes. And I'm in that stage of being an old fuddy-dud who doesn't like tattoos, doesn't like piercings, but more profoundly is really deeply disturbed by what's happening to America. And the resurgence of racism and sexism and anti-immigrant stuff is part of it, but it's also the lack of respect for the values of our democracy. It's becoming a mockery, and I'm increasingly thinking I'm glad I'm not going to be here in 2040.
Jamie, you see a whole lot when you look in that mirror, don't you? That was a whole lot of stuff you see
Well,
in
it
that
doesn't
mirror.
relate to me so much as feeling lost in a world that is becoming unfamiliar.
Okay. James, what do we have from around the country? Who's checking us out?
All right, so we have a man, Anthony, from Chicago, and he is asking, this actually is towards Judge Milton Wright. What is considered an alpha male?
Good question.
What is considered an alpha male? Well, we talk about alpha males when we mean leaders, people who are men who are strong, men who are good thinkers and planners and leaders in general. I think of an alpha male as also being someone who's comfortable with himself, who knows himself and has found a purpose in life and is willing to follow that purpose through whatever it takes. And it must be a righteous purpose.
So do you think alpha males can cry?
Alpha males can cry.
There you go, Jay.
Alpha males have some of the biggest tears you ever seen.
Absolutely.
Would Tommy have the biggest tears, you think?
I don't know, maybe.
Alpha males,
He
they ain't gonna
does.
cry
He
for their
hides them. He hides them, but he got a lot of
He
tears.
in the closet crying. He in the closet crying.
The alpha male, maybe in the cave by himself, but not in front of the rest of the wolf pack.
All right, so we have Jennifer. We have a lovely lady. Her name is Jennifer, and she's calling from Atlanta. Her question is, what happened to men being gentlemen and treating women with love and respect?
Oh, love and respect.
Oh, and this is actually, it's not towards anybody specific, but I guess this is an open question to the panel.
You
So
gotta
what-
treat your woman with love and respect, man. First things first. If you want it back from your woman, I see a woman as a multiplier. You give her a little bit of love, she'll give you a whole lot of love back for a lifetime. So, you have to show love and appreciation for your woman.
And that's the man that's not crying. I don't believe that one.
I don't gotta cry. I ain't gotta cry to say it, right?
Come on, someone else chime in.
Yeah, the song, How to Handle a Woman is to love her, love her, love her. And it's true.
Oh, we can keep going. Go ahead. We can open up the mic to you now. John, what do you think, John?
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for the question. I think, it sounds like, perhaps you haven't found a man who shows you some love and respect, but there are plenty that are out there, trust me.
Yeah.
It may take a long time for us. We're not the brightest group in the universe here, but we'll figure it out here. I got tremendous love and respect for my partner, my wife here. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. If all else were to go to hell here, as long as I have her, I'd be set. But, you deserve love and respect, and I wish you the best.
All right, gentlemen, we're running out of time here. Now we have the opportunity here for each one of you to give a brief closing statement on men. Give a statement that will make folks understand us a little better. We'll start with you, Jamie. Say something.
Yeah. I think men are far less emotionally mature than women even suspect.
Yeah.
And I think very fundamental to our makeup as men is that we're hunter-gatherers, domestic. We're like alley cats. We're not really meant to be domesticated. It's kind of contrary to our nature. But whereas I think creating a hearth and a nest is fundamental to feminine nature, and it a lot of the time it does work out. The man perceives that the trade-off between his first nature and his social being is worthwhile enough. But then I think there are a lot of guys who, frankly, marry only because they want to replicate their genes, they want their laundry done, and they want to be fed. And
Good point, Jerry.
they're not 360-degree human beings. You know, they're stunted and they're limited in some ways. And a lot of this, I think, is tied to what we were talking about, tears.
Okay, I got to stop you there, Jimmy. I'm sorry. Thank you for being here. We don't have a lot of time. Judge Milton Wright, men, your closing statement.
I think men have finally got to come to a point where they understand that they do have these problems of development socially. And, you know, when we're little infants, although we have fathers, a lot that we learn comes from our mothers.
Sure.
Okay, and we cut that off at a certain stage. But we need to learn that we still need to look to women. They teach us a lot about ourselves,
Sure.
you know?
Sure.
And we do have this hunter nature. And that's fine. That's fine. We need to temper that with this thing that women have,
You know, and
and
that,
understanding it.
and that's
you know.
something too. How a lot of us men, including myself, we learn to become men by women. John, what do you have for me, brother?
Well, I think, you know, we're not the smartest, you know, group out there here, but I think we have the capacity to grow. You know, I look at myself and I look how far men have come over the past 100 years and how we're talking to our little boys and our young men and how we're, you know, integrating women and men in certain communities and circles and leadership and positions here. To me, it's inspiring to see that and to, you know, have people more on a level playing field. So, you know, I'm optimistic, and I feel that the capacity to grow is tremendous here.
And my man Tommy Howard, close us up with the conversation on men.
All right, I got a quick excerpt that I think kind of sums it up, in my opinion. I say, you know, a man is strong. Men are strong both physically and mentally. A man's mental strength is not defined in the times of triumph, but in the times of failure. It is only when pushed to the near breaking point does a man become defined. Does he quit, or does he give up, or does he try again? Does he let himself be suppressed, or does he rise to free himself from defeat? A man has many roles. He can be. He's meant to. A man is meant to be decisive. A man is meant to be confident. A man is meant to be responsible. A man is supposed to be kind. He's supposed to be a protector and a provider.
Tommy, I love that. That's a good way to close us out today. I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank Tommy Howard, Jamie McDonald, Judge Milton Wright, and please don't forget to vote for my man, John Santiago, who's running for what seat, John?
It's the 9th Suffolk State Representative, and you can find out more information at www.jonsantiago.org.
I'm sorry, where do they find out more information?
www.jonsantiago.org, johnsantiago.org.
My man, and folks, don't forget, change is always good for our community. Let's now talk to we're in the dessert stage of our show, What's on the Menu, and who better to talk about men but the sensible creatures on this earth called women. Women. Cheryl, what about men and what we've talked about today?
First, I'd like to thank all the guys for coming out and speaking on the radio station. They've all made a lot of good points. Men and women are equal, and I feel that, you know, as long as you could support yourself, you're going from a boy to a man. You should grow up in that sense of the word. Men are great.
Gail, what do you think, honey? And you live with one of the most idiotic men around. How do you feel about that one?
My grandmother always told me if you don't have nothing nice to say, then don't say it. Gotcha.
Gotcha.
I actually appreciate all the conversation today. I sat over there in the corner, and it was really heartfelt. A lot of good things floating in the room. One thing I do really think about a lot is that men are in this world to provide, not only for themselves, for people, for groups of people, for their families, and those are important things. And I think about the men that I've raised, and
Good
those are
man,
my
good
two
man.
sons.
Good man.
And they are everything that men should be, and I really believe that. They are kind, they are fearless, they are humble. They put family first, they speak the truth. They fear no one but Allah. And they're just really consumed with being their best self, and that's what I think men should be. So I look at that as an example, and I do agree that men are raised by women, and they are taught by women, and they are led by women, and that is why men need to make sure that they treat women the way they should be treated.
That's a good statement. You know, there were so many things that I wanted to ask the panel. Jay, while you're here, Jay, can men be in love with their woman? Can they be in love, be monogamous, and do the things that our grandparents did years ago? Can that happen?
That's a hard question, Trey. I think number one, it depends on where you're at in life. You know what I mean? Where you're at mentally as a man. If you're secure enough in yourself, you know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times, you know, being insecure, you tend to have a lot of distractions around you. You know what I mean? Distractions. You know, and as you're growing up and you're learning life, because there's really no blueprint to this. You know what I mean? You have gentlemen in here who's had to maneuver around, and you hearing them talk, they sound so articulate, they sound great, you know, but you know, there's also lessons that they've had to learn, you know, in their life, and those are called hard life lessons. And a lot of times, you know, men, I believe we could be in love, but you know, you're gonna have to find that right woman that's gonna, especially if you're a man who has like some options, and you got some type of good swag towards you, and you got a good job, you got a lot going on for yourself. So it's very important that, you know, you could be in love, but you're gonna have to find somebody a woman who's gonna actually take that time to bring that king out of you.
Well, let me say this.
I want to say, Gems, it's 2018, so
Yeah.
a man could be in love with another man.
Yeah, man or man.
Well, that is true.
I am sorry.
I'm sorry. That is true. That is true. You are right. You are right.
Well, we got a broad audience.
You are right.
You're all right. Sorry about that, fellas.
Whatever floats your boat, you know, whatever it is. But I definitely think men could be in love. You know what I mean? But it depends on where you're at in life. What's your mentality at that point?
That's solely up to the woman, I think.
Yep.
Okay, Tommy, you came late. This is not your segment of the show.
This is the appetizer.
Get that man away from that microphone quickly. Okay, so listen, everybody. I just want to say I want to profess my love for my girl, Gail. She puts up with a lot with me, but I appreciate her being there. And it's something that we decided on this particular, and my mother. You know, my mother was a strong figure in my life, my aunt. I think that they've done a great job putting the things in front of me that I needed, gave me an opportunity to go to college, which I graduated, but really supported me throughout my athletic endeavors throughout life, which kept me in a good position, in a good place. And speaking of athletic endeavors, what we got coming up on the national spotlight, Jay?
We got the home girl, they calling her the GOAT, Trey.
The GOAT?
The GOAT.
And what grade is she in?
She's a freshman out of Washington, D.C. Her name is A.Z. Fudd. Remember the name. Do your Googles right now. A.Z. Fudd. She is that serious. She got, all the top colleges looking at her. You talking about Gino Auriemma, UConn's head coach.
I thought you said she was a freshman, Jay.
She's a freshman coming to see her practice.
And where is she ranked?
Number one.
Number one where?
Number one in the nation.
In the nation.
Man, so we got her on the national spotlight, and let's hear it.
Fellas, if you could just hold on so we can take a picture.
Now, this is the section of our show called the National Spotlight. It's where we put the spotlight on brands, entrepreneurs, businesses, actors, singers, you name it, we want you on the spotlight. But you have to be the best of the best, though. This week on the spotlight, we have St. John College High School freshman basketball phenom, A.Z. Fudd. A.Z., say hello to our listeners.
Hi.
AZ, tell our listeners where you're calling from.
I just finished my last day of high school.
But what city? What city are you in?
Washington, D.C.
Last day of high school. She's in the D.C. area. Folks, national spotlight. AZ, I got to tell you this story before we get going. How I got put on to you. I went down to visit to D.C., hang out with my boys, Sly Boogie and my man B. And they started telling me this story about, man, we got this unbelievable basketball player. Her name is AZ. They use that's a word that they don't use that often. They use the GOAT. My man B was like, yo, Jay, she's the GOAT. I was like, what? The GOAT? She was like, yes, she's that serious. So I was like, you know what? And then the following day, I think you guys had a playoff game. And we were supposed to go to that game. I'm thinking the game is at 5 o'clock. But it was actually at 1. So I overslept. And I was like, oh, B. I called Sly Boogie. I was like, Boogs, come on now. How we missed this game? So we ended up missing the game. But I've been following you ever since on the YouTube and just seeing the numbers that you're putting up. And I was like, man, I just want to give a shout out to my man Sly Boogie and Brian for setting this up with your dad, Mr. Tim, as well. So AZ, let's get to it. I always wanted to know what the name AZ is such a unique name. It got star power all over it. Is there like a significant meaning behind your name?
I was named after Jennifer AZ. She was my mom's favorite basketball player, and she thought that she was a great basketball player, but also had an outstanding personality. And she decided, she got to meet her one time, and she had dinner with her, and she decided that if she had a daughter, she wanted to name her AZ. She wanted me to, I guess, have, no, it wasn't really about basketball, but it's like having an outstanding character like her.
Absolutely. But hey, basketball is filling that role, though. Ooh, man. So let me ask you this next question now. You have University of Maryland, you have North Carolina, all the major colleges. Now, I read somewhere that Gino Auriemma, which is the University of Connecticut's head coach, who have won 11 national championships in women's basketball, came out to see you practice. AZ, what was that feeling like, AZ?
I was so nervous when my dad told me that he was coming to watch me practice. I was beyond nervous. It was crazy. The whole day I was like, oh my gosh, she's just coming to watch me practice.
Wow. So I know you put in work. did you put in work, or was you a little bit nervous?
No, I actually practiced really well that day.
Wow, you see, when the star's on, she's gonna shine. So AZ, so your parents were athletes, and I heard they were studs in their own rights.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel that you had to play basketball because your mom and your dad played, or is this something that you just naturally fell in love with?
Honestly, I grew up in the gym with them. So I love basketball, but I didn't really want to play. When I was younger, I didn't really like doing anything new. So they would have to force me. They forced me to play soccer. They had to force me to try and do things all the time. So I didn't want to play basketball. They made me try it, and that's when I just fell in love with it.
You fell in love with the game. So what's a typical day like for you during basketball season, and what's your day like during the off season?
So during the high school season, at the beginning of the season, I would go to school early to shoot, and then I would have school. Then after school, we'd have practice, and then I would go home. But more in the middle of the season during playoffs and stuff, I would just go to practice early or stay a little bit later to get some shots up. And then now during the off season, I'm running track for St. John's.
Okay.
And then I go to the gym after school basically every day, even if we have practice, and I'll get shots up and work on stuff.
Wow, you're getting those reps in, AZ. This is what separates you from the rest. You're getting your reps in. So on the court, AZ, they call you the silent assassin. I want to know, are you as competitive in the classroom as well?
At school?
Yeah, in school.
I'm not sure if competitive is the right word. Grade wise, I want to have good grades, so that's a self goal kind of thing. Where I try to have all A's, overseas.
Okay. All right. So, what are 3 activities that you enjoy other than playing ball?
I love hanging out with my family and my friends, and I like going to the mall and watching movies.
Oh, you like doing the normal stuff. You like just chilling.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm thinking like, you might like drama or drama class or acting class or, something fancy, you know what I mean? But she just like chilling, hanging out with her family, hanging out with her friends. Oh, man, real down to earth person I see. So let me ask you this question. So how are you mentally preparing yourself? Because, right now the spotlight's about to be on you, AZ. How are you mentally preparing yourself for the hate and the jealousy that comes with being successful?
I kind of had never really been through experienced any kind of jealousy or hate until I did a little bit this year, and my parents helped me through. I just tried my best not to focus on it, and they told me you have to realize no matter what, no matter where you go, there will always be someone who wants to be in the position you are or who's jealous of you, and instead of praising you and being on your side, they are mean to you, all kinds of things, and you just can't focus on all the negative stuff.
Absolutely. Oh man, that's a great response right there. Man, it sounds like your parents are really involved and they really just, nurturing you and just want you to, you need that though. I think somebody in your position is a blessing to have that. Now, AZ, what advice would you give to a young lady who wants to be successful? Whether it's in basketball or whether it's in whatever it is that they want to do. What advice would you give them?
I would say work hard. If no matter what it is, if it's something that you love and you really want to do and pursue in the future or something, work hard at it, and if you want to be the best, don't let anyone outwork you.
Don't let anybody outwork you. Wow, you hear that, folks? Do not let anybody outwork you. If you're a young scholar and you're getting ready to whatever it is that you want to do, you got to put that work in. You hear what AZ Fudd. If you don't know who she is, get your Google on right now. Please and thank you, because she is that serious.
That was a tremendous interview, Jay. AZ, we applaud you. We're going to be praying for you here in Boston. I can't wait to see you play, young lady. I'm hearing a lot about you, Jay. Is she the truth?
She the truth, man. She the truth. And she's humble. She come from real good background, and she's hungry. You know what I mean? She's hungry.
More than anything, I want to thank her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Fudd, for allowing your child to come on our show, and for trusting us with that interview. I hope we did her the way you expected us to, and we'd like to have her involved in one way or another in the future. Jay, what you think about today's discussion, man?
Man, that was pretty good. You know what I mean? It gave me a lot of insights on just men. You know what I mean? Because I think we're crazy. We're dumb.
Oh, yeah. That's dumb. Not even, as my daughter calls me, you're a doofus, daddy. I'm the king doofus. That would be me.
Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to say, too, is we really appreciate our guests being here today. It was a lot of fun. I think the conversation started off slow, and then Tommy Howard kicked it in with the crying thing. I think the crying thing really opened up a whole new discussion with men. I really wanted to bring up some other issues around gay men and some other issues, but we didn't have that time. But please, folks, follow us. Tell your friends about us. We're on www.whatsonthemenuboston.com. Jay, Jizzy, and myself will always be here. Jay, close us out, brother.
Yo, before we even close this out, Trey, I got to let you know, man, I know you had a rough week, you know what I mean? But thank you for coming down, always bringing your A game. My condolences as well. And, folks, we going to keep knocking, keep rocking, all right? Peace and love to you, and hope to see you in, not this week.
The following week. I don't know the date. It's every 2 weeks,
Every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. We'll see you.
WBPG LP 102.9 FM radio. We are located at 670 Washington Street in Dorchester, Massachusetts. Our zip code is 02124. Our phone number is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. The views and opinions expressed by the following paid program are those of the program producers, and they do not reflect the views and opinion of Global Ministries Christian Church, its staff, or management.